And welcome. And I'm seeing some frozen faces again, I think,
Oh
which
no.
is kind
The
of making
usual suspects have been frozen.
Oh, is it me?
that
Right
so
as she was taking a drink, too. So,
well. I guess at least it's interesting to see on the podcast. But so that extra bumper I added in there, I did for a reason, and it's pretty much to break it down is to say that the views and opinions expressed by the Welcome to the Grindhouse podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not necessarily reflect the official stance or position of the podcast or Grindhouse Media LLC. And one of the reasons that I'm putting that disclaimer on tonight's show is because as of something that happened in the gaming sphere, as of I think it was yesterday or at least earlier today, has got me hopping mad. And I definitely want to talk about RPG ethics with as kind of a side speech tonight. So we'll get ready for that and get into it. And I think we might be all on the same page on it. We might not, but that's what discussions are for. And I think it'd be an interesting thing to talk about.
so
Unlike
basically, you're disclaimering yourself.
pretty much, yeah.
That's an interesting stance to take.
Well, I don't want anyone to like hate my LLC, which I own.
Don't hate my LLC that I own and completely control because I said something. No, I'm sure this disclaimer will work as advertised.
Absolutely. And with that said, welcome to the Grindhouse, a talk show about RPG gaming, comics, ethics, movies, and pop culture, and whatever else I get mad at during the week. My name is JC. I'm your host, and with me tonight I have my co-hosts, Pat O. Let's say Pat Ho. It's like
I haven't called worse.
Podcast.
Yeah, or it can be this one. I'm fine with that.
well, I mean, it's also kind of Hawaiian. Wasn't there like a Don Ho?
Yes, there was.
All right. GM Mike, Catherine has returned from the grave to join us again. And our old pal Flat Earth Mixon, who is also with us here tonight.
Man, you're gonna get that disclaimer really working.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go around for our general introductions. And Catherine, since you're like right next to me on the screen, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay. Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm recovering from a cold, so my voice is going to be dead. You can follow me on Twitter, Epistome. Yeah, and that's me.
All right. And Terry.
I'm Terry Mixon, science fiction author and NASA mole on this podcast. Definitely not a member of the Flat Earth Society.
All right, GM Mike.
Hello, I'm GM Mike, avid gamer, and yeah, that's it.
All right, and finally Pat.
Hey, my name is Pat O'Sullivan, filmmaker, general in the KISS Army. You can find me on Twitter at DrX2112.
All right, and tonight we return to the Gygax 75 Challenge, which we're in week 4, so this will be an interesting discussion. It was actually a lot more work than I thought it would be, so luckily I went and used online generators to help me with a lot of it, because otherwise I would just be sitting here going, and what did you do this weekend? So we'll talk about that first. I want to take a break and talk about ethics in the RPG industry. And I'll explain a little bit and give context to why I'm hopping mad and want to talk about it in the thing. We'll also discuss, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so Ryutama?
Yeah.
Yeah, I pronounced it right. And what it is in role-playing games. And then we will wrap things up, and Pat will talk about our movie of the week, Honor Amongst Thieves, which I think, as I was talking about before we started rolling, most of us have seen, if not once, twice, or maybe even more times. And I think it'll just be a good discussion talking about, D&D and what the movie actually ended up being. And I don't know, for all the hubbub about it, it actually was a very excellent, well, I don't know if excellent is the word I want to use, but it was a good film.
I'd say excellent. It was good.
Absolutely. All right. So before we start, please subscribe and follow us here on YouTube and Twitch. Just get the algorithms up and the numbers and all that fun stuff that we really don't have any control over. And if you like what we're doing, please support us on Patreon or buy us a coffee. So on Patreon, you can see it at patreon.com /grindhouse_media. YouTube, which here we get used to things. You can find us here because you're already here, probably watching us anyway. So, and then lastly, you can find us on twitch.tv/Grindhouse Media. And I keep promising to put up our Teespring account, which I'll try to do before the end of the episode. So if any of you like our weird, even though this new logo that you see here at the top of the screen is a fairly new one for us.
I like it.
I haven't had a chance to put that into the Teespring store yet, so we will get going. But anyway, I'm going to open up chat here just to kind of see. I see that we do have one person watching at this point, so it'll usually collect as we go on. So anyway, let's go ahead and start with the Gygax 75 challenge. So I guess I'll go ahead and start this time around since I have all my stuff here, and I will share my screen to show you what I ended up doing. So let me find the there we go. All right, and let's see, how do I share again? It's going to give me that thing where it's going to give me a warning and all that fun stuff. So. Oh, it didn't. Wow. I'm
Nice.
actually surprised. Yeah. So, yeah, although this is nice, I completely cheated and went to a website to get it done and generated. But, so I'll read off this week's challenges.
I do recognize the site.
As everything falls on the floor here. So this week was town features. We were to find or sketch out a city map, look at the equipment lists for our game. So basically create shops within the town that people could buy things from. Locate and describe at least 5 of the following in a short sentence. So a political faction and its rival, a place where characters can lose all their money, a place where people gather to hear news or speak their minds, a secretive guild hall and its reputation, a great place to obtain a hot meal and a clean bed, religious center and the gods to which it is devoted, or a feature completely unique to this town, and then 5 NPCs that have what's called DNA, distinguishing trait or feature, what they need most, and their agenda. So I have called this little town Volstagg because it just sounded cool, and it's not on my original map, but it even has umlauts. It's V-O with an umlaut L S-T-A-A-G, so double A's. It even sounds cooler. So my my locations, I have our blacksmith, the bronze hammer. We have the Iron Cauldron, which is an alchemist store. We have Uncle Woo's Rarities, which is a magic shop. Counter Contour, a clothing shop where hipsters of this town shop. We have Greybeards, barber surgeon. We have Bardic Desire, which is a music shop. Quills Emporium, general goods. The Alewright Pub, the Shepherd's Path Inn, and Shield Maidens, which is a hipster bar in town. For my political factions, I'll try to read my own writing here. We have the Order of the Black Blade, a group of I can't even read my own writing. A group of knights who want to return to the former ways of their land. Place to lose money, Shield Maidens, as I mentioned. They have gambling and a lot of games from the woman who owns it. She is from the Northlands and has a lot of weird things like axe throwing and eating herring out of a barrel and all that fun stuff. a place to hear gossip. And my map, you'll see Fish Bank. There's like little tables and chairs there, and people tend to go by the river and tell secrets and stuff. The Secret Guild Hall is the Night Haunt. It's a private club for the Assassin's Guild. And my religious center is the Church of Beatrix, the goddess of judgment. And I'll wrap up with 5 of my NPCs, which I didn't get too far into. So Uncle Wu, as mentioned before, the magic shop owner, he's human, but he's from an eastern land, so he dresses in a very... Oh, do we lose somebody?
Looks like we lost. Looks like we lost Matt.
GM Mike, he's gone.
Mike
is gone. All right, well, I'm sure he'll pop back in. Uncle Wu, anyway, Brunhild Olaf's daughter, the woman who owns the Shield Maiden. We have Thelonious Quill, who is a halfling, always dresses fancy, speaks in riddles, and he is the owner of the... I'm just looking at my screen here. There we go. He is the owner of the Quill. Karagar Greybeard, the dwarf who owns the barbershop, and Ethel Wolf, a human who dresses in black, pale skin, and who's a recluse. I'm kind of thinking that she's a wealthy woman, probably a widower who lives, or actually no, widower would be male, right? So it'd be a widow.
Yes.
Okay.
Widow is a female.
All right. So it would be she's a widow, wealthy, well-to-do, kind of like if Morticia Adams lost Gomez and just kind of acted creepy on her own. But so anyway, that's what I've accomplished, even though I've rattled it off. So, now I have my, my lands, my dungeon, and a cool city to go to. So who would like to go next?
She's moving again.
I am.
He's moving again.
Wow.
GM Mike was secretly the one that was causing all of this.
I am behind by a good bit because I was sick for 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could
so
just
I'm no longer ahead. I am very much behind.
All right. Well, do you want to just at least tell us a little bit of maybe what you've got done? It doesn't have to be everything. So it's
Sure.
Okay.
I'll take the pressure off everybody else. So I didn't do the town thing because I didn't know we were going to do the town. I wasn't sure if we were taking a break or not, and I did a little bit of the dungeon before I was stuck in bed for like a week. And that was mostly just figuring out random generations and stuff like that, and making it so that I kind of future-proof myself. So that way when my friends and stuff like that go through my dungeons in the future, I can quickly roll something up like on the fly, because I prefer doing it like on the fly rather than preparing like weeks in advance. And so I made like a generation table that rolls up your like how many floors in the dungeon there are, and I went for between 1 and 5 floors, and on a D10, and then I went for the amount of rooms, and I think I went for 1d6 plus 4 rooms, which is what the Gygax challenge does.
Yep.
And then I had it so that whenever somebody enters a room, I roll, and it's kind of like the dot hack games where you don't really know what you're going to get until you're in the room, and so you either get like a treasure, nothing, or an encounter with a monster. And then once you complete the encounter with the monster, you might get loot off of that. And then at the bottom, I always actually for each floor, I made a mental note to like always make room for a staircase, like a room that's just you're going downwards. There's nothing in here. It's just move on. And then at the bottom floor, I always wanted to have like a chest with like a rare item in it that would be like set somewhere. And right before that chest, there would be kind of like a boss encounter.
Okay, so kind of sounds almost very video gamey, where it's just kind of
Yeah.
like you make your way through the levels, and then finally you get to that last encounter. And lately, I've been playing a lot of Borderlands 3. So when you kill the big bad, he explodes, and all kinds of goodies explode out of his body, which is really weird. But I guess it is science fiction. But no, awesome. I mean, at least the thing is, at least you're giving it thought, and maybe at some point once this thing is over, we can figure out a place to just kind of sum up our notes and just kind of put it out there. So if people are interested in how we went through it, or they can just kind of listen to
Yeah.
the podcast as well. Mike blue screened, so
Oh,
I'm
that's a
not
shame.
100% sure if he's coming back on, but I told him, well, I wish him luck. I know blue screening sucks, and sometimes you have to, yeah, sometimes your computer is gone. Sometimes your computer
Yeah.
just needs a little love and care, and it'll come right back. All right, so I will go next to Pat. So I know, Pat, you're kind of doing this in a rough sense, but working on your upcoming game hole adventure. So with this said, maybe you could talk about what town your adventure is set in?
Yeah, no, I didn't do any of that. But what I did
Okay.
do was, because I am providing pre-gen characters at the
Uh-huh.
con, I started putting those together.
Okay.
So, like I had said earlier, we did Long Duck Don as a monk class. We did Uncle Buck as a barbarian. Gus Polinsky, who is the Polka King character from Home Alone, as a bard. And then I have to do the descendants of the Wet Bandits. They will be two female thieves. And then what was the other one? Eagle Man. Did you guys have Eagle Man in other parts of the country? The car insurance commercial? No,
That doesn't
Sounds
It was
sound
a-
vaguely familiar.
familiar.
It seems kind of sort of familiar.
it was a Chicago thing. It was a car insurance company that had these ridiculous commercials of a man in an eagle suit, and he would lay an egg on the people would get in an accident and then be fighting, and then Eagle Man would appear and be like, "I have something for you," and he would lay an egg on the hood of the car.
I
And they
would
were very
totally
infamous
want
in
to see
Chicago
that.
in the '90s. Yeah,
I would totally want that in my area.
right. That's where you want
Why
to.
can't I have had it?
I want to buy insurance from that guy. So, yeah. So working on those. I mean, pre-gen characters aren't that hard. I think you're making decisions. They're all level 4, so it's not incredibly high. You get some stat modifiers. As far as equipment goes, what gave me the idea was one of the things they want you to do in the Gygax challenge this week is come up with equipment lists, right?
Mhm.
So if you think about them going into the Tomb of Horrors, what do you need, right? You need some rope, you need a telescopic pole to like poke the ground in front of you and check for traps and stuff. Which I didn't really get a chance to talk last week about it too much, but that's been kind of the bulk of my creative time spent on this project. Is I only have one dungeon to come up with, but it is 4 floors, and there is a dumbwaiter system that connects the basement to the first and second floors. We have crawl space access from the 3rd floor in 2 spots to the attic, and that is where Kevin McAllister is going to be, kind of like in an homage to Christmas Vacation, where Chevy Chase gets locked up in the attic, and that's where he was last forgotten. I'm putting together the mechanics of the boss fight. I always like to put Easter eggs in my boss battles that are automatic kill switches, just because I feel like if you're playing a game and you find that,
Hmm.
it's just as much fun as if we rolled dice for 10 minutes and like came to the solution that way. So there's going to be beehives in the attic, and if you can strike one of them and anger the bees enough, they'll attack the lich Macaulay Culkin, a la my girl, and kill him. Because my girl, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that movie. I might be getting way too esoteric here with my 90s movie references. So hopefully I have the right crowd. Otherwise, I'm going to get a bunch of fucking blank stares at the table. But yeah, so just stuff like that. You know what I mean? And those are ideas that come to you, like, you just got to write them down when they come in and then incorporate them into the soup when you get a chance. So that's where we're at with this. I am kind of at the point, like, I'm not going to do a town because they never, the adventure starts and you're in front of the palatial estate in Evanston, right? And that's it. Like, you're not going to town for anything. There's no warring political factions. But, I'm still, my goal is by the end of this to have the adventure complete still. So I feel that I'm a good 2/3, 4/5 of the way through it. So.
No, that's awesome. I really want to know how this turns. When is Gamehole this year?
Gamehole's October, and actually, I just got an email today that we have until June 1st to submit our games, and I already submitted this one, right? So I'm thinking, like, man, I got enough time where I could potentially throw together another pitch, and because of this, like, when I did GaryCon stuff, I wasn't this far ahead, right? So I'm going to have this whole thing done by the end of Gygax 75. I mean, I want to game test it with my people here, but or play test it. But other than that, I'll be ready to go. So I was like, well, why don't I throw together another one? And I was thinking about either doing a DCC gore thing, or doing using the Tales of Gore game that what's his name did, Jimmy.
James Desborough.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that gaming system, and I was actually supposed to run that at GaryCon.
Oh wow!
The year that the pandemic hit and the whole thing got canceled, but I also think it would be neat just to play with the gore stuff and do it in DCC, because DCC is such an easy system to where you can just kind of just throw in anything,
Yeah, I wrote an adventure for James Desborough for Tales of Gore.
I remember you mentioning that. What was the gist of it?
It's called Cat's Eye. Hold on, bringing Mike back on.
Yay!
Hello.
Yay.
Are we frozen?
And you're frozen again. So it looks like 4 is the magic number, but at least you're not frozen in weird positions. I don't think so. It's all good. So yeah, it's called Cat's Eye, and it actually takes place in Halifax, I think. Anyway, it's one of the northern towns near the large forest where the Panther Girls run.
Okay.
And it's actually it's inspired by Predator, because the heroes get up to the thing, right? So they're hired to go basically capture Panther Girls, like that. That's kind of their thing, and that's also a thing in Gore anyway. They would send large groups out there with cages to capture Panther Girls and bring them back.
Yeah.
However, they actually find this more Amazonian society of Panther Girls who have like their own governance and this like miniature enclave, and so they get captured. They're basically told, "Aha, well, you'll be our slaves now," and all that sort of thing. But what they don't understand is that somewhere in what ends up happening is they free those weird large gorilla things, the aliens who are I can't think of their names now.
The Cursed or something.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's now a bunch of them running around with. Oh no, that's right, because underneath this compound is one of their alien ships, and when they're trying to escape, they trigger these things that wake them out of their cryo sleep, and they come out. So it's basically like Gore technology bases like large laser weapons and giant 8-foot tall gorilla things that are really pissed off. But anyway, I'll share it with you. I mean, it's if you can rip it off for whatever you want. I mean, that was my big because I'm a big Gore fan, John Norman fan. So that, like, when James Desborough basically told me that he'd be happy to have me write something for the Gore RPG, I was all over it. I was just like, yes.
That's cool. Yeah, the thing that I had kind of come up with for GaryCon was just basically, you're all in jail, and for different reasons, and we have different characters and different, whatever, and you escape, and one of the people that you're escaping with, he's an NPC, and he says, get me to this warehouse, and then you get to the warehouse, and I think it was those furry alien things
Okay.
that are there, and then you get on a boat, or I forget what the fuck it was. But it's like, the trick is coming up with a 4-hour idea.
Yeah.
And not a 6 to 12 hour, whatever. No, but it's like, no, this is a 4-hour idea. There's basically 3 fights or something, or like, and I probably even had too much back then too. So.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, and again, we'll get to Mike now that he's back, but the one I'm going to say challenge with gore, and I would say it would be a challenge for Gary Con, because Gary Con isn't as, like, at least Gamehole has the adult area, and other places where, if you're going a little off the rails with gore content, you're not going to have to worry about someone like running in a corner and crying, shivering because, being a Kajira like triggers them or something. But Gamehole would be a good place, I think, to do it, because the adult room, as long as the kids aren't running around. And
it got accepted. It got accepted for GaryCon, and it filled up.
Wow.
Yeah, and I sent out a message to people, and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you guys picked this game just because you needed something at this time slot, but Google gore before you do this. I don't want." And what I really should have done was once again, I didn't have pre-gens. Like, I thought we were all going to collaborate beforehand and come up with their characters, because once again, I don't want to make you be a slave unless you want to be a slave. Like we got to figure it out, and.
Pat, your voice disappeared. It trailed off.
And Catherine's moving again.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, I moved it to a different format, and it looks like moving. So, but Pat's now frozen.
Yeah.
It had players.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
Now he's gone.
But now he's
back.
I quit. No, I'm back.
Oh, and everyone's moving. Oh, don't jinx it.
Oh, heck, that won't. There's a freeze. There it is.
Oh, no.
Let's
I'll figure it out one day.
Caught him with his mouth open.
Oh, there we have Catherine moving, so we'll keep it at that. All right, so so the gore is definitely an interesting setting. And before we go to Mike, I just want to say that Chicago had Eagle Man. Northern California had Paul from the Diamond Center. So this Paul was this guy who and I think you could probably Google his old commercials on YouTube. But imagine Ron Jeremy looking guy who pretty much wanted to sell you jewelry. And there'd just be like these scenarios where like this couple is wanting to get married, and the guy pulls out this little tiny ring, and she gets upset. And then Paul pops out of somewhere and suddenly, tells him that he can give him, payments and things like that. And then it goes back and he has a giant ring and Paul's teeth glow or something like that. It ends with. But the most frightening part about Paul from the Diamond Center was that, like, he literally looked like 70s Ron Jeremy. And, Ron Jeremy popping up anywhere in your home during an intimate moment is not particularly something I would be into. But all right, so Mike, you're the one who usually blows us away each week with your work. So we are on week 4 of the Gygax Challenge. So what have you got for us? And I can give you screen. I think you can screen share if you need to or whatnot.
Well, my computer just had some sort of issue, and so I've been frantically clicking on my desktop, and I don't have anything. So I'll have to get back to you.
The dog ate his homework.
Quite literally. Well, the hard drive, it looks like.
All right. So we'll do a little combination of catch up on the next stream then. That sounds good. So Terry, so far between Eagleman, Ron Jeremy, Gore, and what we've talked about with the Gygax Challenge, any comments or?
You reminded me that I wanted to reread what I have of the Gore series. It's probably been 30 or 40 years since I've read it, and I still have the books lurking on my bookshelf. See my new bookshelves? All done. Only took a week and a half to get my new bookshelves in place.
Ooh, shiny.
So that's definitely a reminder. I know that would definitely be something that would have to go in the adult room. Totally have to go in the adult room with the gore stuff. But
yeah.
I like what you did with your world, your city. I'm surprised you didn't snag one of the Paizo pre-made cities to stick your stuff into rather than drawing a map.
And that's kind of overdoing it. I mean, I don't mind like an AI generating a city for me, like that's not a problem. But just going in and snagging something from Paizo or Wizards just didn't seem right. Because like someone go, "Hey, isn't that water deep?" No, that's not water deep at all. That's deep
This is
water. The
shallow water.
Yeah.
A city on my coast.
So, but yeah, no, it was interesting, and I kind of cheated out on some of the NPCs too, because a lot of them were NPCs from various games that I've played in the past. So like Uncle Wu is actually from a Feng Shui campaign that I ran a while back. He's the equivalent of the old Asian man from Gremlins, the one who yeah. So, but yeah, so but it's been fun, and I think what's next week actually, so we can kind of flip topics. Next week, I'm sure is going to be painstakingly hard. So
next week is the larger
world. Yeah. So what do we have to do? We have to sketch out the geography of the continent.
Oh God.
Outline other worlds and planes the characters could visit. Develop a pantheon of gods and powers. Create some higher level non-player characters and villains. Create a calendar with festivals and important dates. Holy crap. Oh, you have to do at least 3 of these. Okay. So it's not like all of these. Generate some events and rumors from other lands. Create more major magical relics of the world and a short history of each. Make encounter tables for each of the terrains, and develop a rival company of adventurers or mercenaries.
Ooh.
That was an idea that I had for the Tomb of Horrors thing. Was having a different a rival group, because that was supposed to be something in the original Tomb of Horrors, is that you could potentially run across other adventurers.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that would be a fun thing to incorporate, a bunch of cameos, basically.
You actually scared me there for a second. I thought you were going to say that was kind of the original intent of like Home Alone, where they were going to run across like another alternate people going through Kevin's house. That would be a little frightening. All right, cool. So the Gygax challenge is definitely going well. I mean, the thing is that even if we don't particularly get every little I dotted and T crossed and all that, I think as an exercise, it's really good, because I think we're going to walk away with more, I don't know, just some more cool stuff than we had, say, at the beginning of this.
Right, exactly. More content than you started with,
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So I am now going to switch gears and talk a little bit about my my hot button topic for the
you need like a flashing thing right now. Warning, warning, warning.
Well, I did make that that little bumper, but it goes by too fast, so you can't really see what it says.
Yeah.
And the only reason I put it up there, and I know Terry kind of was like, "You're doing a disclaimer for yourself," but I don't plan to get like brutal or anything about it. But just sometimes listeners will get a little upset, or they might actually take the side of. So, long story short, I'm not going to mention any company names, but I'm just going to go ahead on a higher level, give what happened. So this has been all over Twitter today. As usual, Twitter, the place to learn your news. So there's an RPG company out of Great Britain who publicly announced that they were firing an editor who had worked on their game, which is, I think, now it's in a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo or something like that. And they basically, before they even went into any minor reasons, they pointed out that this person had edited for Lamentations of the Flame Princess and a couple other, and I'm using quotes, air quotes here, problematic companies, and therefore ethically they couldn't keep him aboard, so they fired him. They also, well, they actually went on to say that the companies had bigoted and problematic, and any other Twitter buzzword you want to throw in there was listed in there. And then they basically said we had to let him go. We're taking his, even though he did the work, they're taking his name off of the product as well, because they don't want this person associated. Now, at least they didn't give a name or anything of the person, but to go on and do that, I think is very, it's completely unethical. Or the fact is that companies like that who are going to virtue signal, and I hate using that word, but that's the word I'm going to use because that's really what it is. If a company is going to virtue signal, then they should let their writers, editors, artists, whatever, know this up front, so they can say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we don't really align. But this is a freelancer too. It's not like he was this valued member of the company or anything. He was a freelancer. And to do that to a freelancer is crappy, because freelancers do this sort of work to make money. They're not in for it. They're not into this for, I'm supporting your cause, I'm supporting your beliefs, your ideology, whatever. They're in it because I need money, because I need to pay bills, and I need to do, things. So by doing that to someone who's already worked on the project, I think is a completely crappy thing. Now,
and did it show that he had those views or anything like that, or did he they could have dug deeper into his history and stuff like that, during the interviewing process, because you don't just randomly pick out of a hat, oh, it's going to be this guy today who's going to be editing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And they apparently it's not even the editor, right? Because he's a freelancer. He just did editing for a company that honestly, so Lamentations of the Flame Princess is an artsy version of old D&D. If you ever look at any of the books, I would say definitely hold on if you're not really into gore or over sexualized themes. But it's beautiful art. It's just really scary art. And a lot of his content just really has to do with kind of really creepy, cringy sort of things, but not in a horrible way. It's not like he goes out and, he's doing anything purposely racist or he's doing anything purposely horrible. It's just storytelling. And it also is a lot of stuff that takes place during the revolutionary period too. I think we lost Pat.
I think so too.
Okay, Pat is back. All right. Oh, and he's moving for now.
For the moment.
Yeah. So now I can understand if, say, for example, this editor had wrote for, say, Varg, right? So I don't know if anyone is familiar with Varg. Varg is a Norwegian game designer who is actually a known neo-Nazi. he went out to say that he supports white supremacy and neo-Nazism, right? Because he believes he's the descendant of Thulians and all that, super high level stuff. And that's fun. I mean, hey, do what you want, but I'm not going to, I purposely would not work for Varg because that goes against a lot of how I feel about it. Even if I needed the money, I'd be like, no, thank you. Because I wouldn't want my name associated with it. Or, for example, Dave Johnson, who was part of the new TSR, who actually got uncovered to be a neo-Nazi. Also, that's someone who wanted to work with my company a while back, and just, thank the stars that we did not bring them on to do anything for us, because it was uncovered. People need to do what they need to do, but also understand that what some of their beliefs might be toxic to many people, and we don't want to. Tim says, did they look at his resume? I don't think so, because if you look at and it's on Twitter. I mean, if you do a search for it, I'm sure you'll find it. But no, it was just simply because this editor worked with this company. They're automatically now lumped in with someone's ideological problems, and that is that. And I think that is where I'm ranting about today, because that really pissed me off. It's like, all right, first of all, you don't do that to freelancers, artists, writers, things like that. They are there just to write for you, to write for many companies, to make. And one of the things that I said in my Twitter feed is that I wrote for James Raggi and Lamentations of the Framed Princess. I'm not embarrassed by that. They actually never published the book. It still sits on my hard drive, but it's not like, like if I brought it back up to James and said, hey, let's try to do this again. And I've written, as I just mentioned, for James Desborough, and wrote for the Gore series. So I, where you want to come and lynch mob me too, because I've written, and they're all nice people. James Raggi is an amazingly nice person. James Desborough is an amazingly nice person. They're all good people. They're not like these horrible monsters. So I just sometimes don't understand why our industry is so hell bent on following these ideologically, I can't even speak English. I'm getting passionate here. But these paths that within themselves, they think that they're the righteous, that they're on the right side of history, that they're doing all these great things, when they're not. They're just being complete tools and asshats. And, we're not going to be able to come to any sort of understanding if we're going to sit in our corners and pout. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on it. So I just want to just open discussion. What are people's thoughts about, these sort of things?
Sadly, society has become very ideological, and it really is a point where certain segments of society, whether right or left, does not want to hear anything that disagrees with what they are believing in. And they will do whatever they can to destroy those who have crossed an ideological line, even if it is something freelanced or working for someone else. They don't care. They live in their bubble and they want to destroy anything that is not them. And it's sad.
It's terrible timing that you bring this up when you do, but I guess we live in this world now, so this is always happening. But I have a very close friend that is worked in the media and is getting dragged really hard right now for some accusations against him. And it's just a tidal wave of people publicly denouncing him and distancing themselves from him. And some of them that are doing it because they have to. Because if they don't, then their biggest fear is that the mob is going to come for them next.
Yeah.
And we live in a world where that's a really real fear. And as much as it lacks the kind of, Captain America, when the world tells you to move, you plant your feet in and say, no, you move, or whatever the fucking speech he gives us. Like, we all like to think that we live in that world and that we would behave like that. But,
when push comes to shove.
Yeah, I mean, like Jimmy, I know what you do. I know where you work. Like, think about it. Like, I work in a similar institution. You know what I mean? That's a precarious situation to be in. How much do you want to be tied to certain things, certain predilections, and have that be dragged out into the spotlight and in the wrong set of hands? That shit could be detrimental. So, like, and you talk about people that work in media, people that run gaming companies, people that, whatever. Like, how quickly can the torch turn to them, and how fast are they going to go up in flames if they come for them? And I think that what we have to do collectively is normalize standing up for other people, and normalize coming together and saying, "Nah, this is bullshit. We got courts, we got laws, we got reasons. This guy didn't do anything wrong." Like, I don't know what kind of code of conduct thing he signed or whatever, but he should fucking sue their asses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of lawyers that will take that case up, even if they don't think they can win it. You know, because that's what lawyers do. But I think that like that's what we need to do. You got to push back because these people are fucking pussies. Like, I'm sorry, they're not going to hold up to it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you got to the internet when it gets mobilized can do amazing things, but they can also do some really shitty things too. And I don't think it takes a whole lot of pushback to make the resolve crumble because it's just all people wasting time on the toilet. Nobody really gives a shit about this stuff. It's something for them to get upset about for like 2-3 days and then move on with their lives. You know, they find the next thing to be outraged about.
It's like the J.K. Rowling video game, whatever, drama. Like, that was the hot topic for like, what, 3 days a week, and now it's like, you don't hear it anymore.
Yeah, she needs to shut the fuck up, though. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like,
she does.
I listen. I loved Harry Potter. I'm not gonna. I have to use past tense when I talk about that now because she's somebody that like should have just kept her fucking mouth shut. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Like,
Yeah.
you have some very unpopular opinions, and you're getting paid a lot of money. Just shut the fuck up and cash the checks. It's too late to be like for her to be like, well, I don't care. I'm just gonna keep cashing the checks, dude. You're missing the assignment, man. Like, just shut the fuck up. You know?
What? Agree with her or disagree with her? Why should she shut up? We just got finished saying people should stand their ground and say what they believe in, even if it's unpopular. And now we're condemning her for it. You can disagree with somebody, disagree with them passionately, but they have the right to stand up for what they believe in.
You know what? You're right. I think that that's a little bit hypocritical because I don't believe in the same things she believes in. But the thing is, a lot of people don't. And I'll tell you a little secret about I do a paranormal conspiracy podcast. As you know, Terry, we'd love to have you on. Invite is still open.
I've already said yes. How many times more can I say yes?
I mean, not that I'm not.
Actually, I never saw your email, so I have no idea.
I'll send it again. Because I emailed you like right after that episode. We have there's a very a lot of there's a lot of Southern right wing people that are into conspiracies and shit. We have
it's not so.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, so here too.
We have to really skate, and we're a paranormal occult. We talk about cryptids, talk about all kinds of shit, and we just need to kind of keep politics out of that. Mm-hmm. And it's a distinction that everybody in the community makes, because we all know when you go to a convention in Virginia and you're trying to sell T-shirts or little Bigfoot dolls, who the fuck do you think is showing up to buy your T-shirts and your Bigfoot dolls, right? So you just don't get into politics. You just avoid it. And is that hypocritical? Yeah, probably. Because once again, we're trading ideology for capitalism or whatever. But like, I like selling T-shirts. And I don't really care how those people vote, even if the way that they vote could hurt my friends and family.
I have, like everyone else, I have my own political views that may or may not be popular with anyone else. I keep it off my social media for exactly those reasons. I keep it off the podcast that I co-host, because it's not our job to go ahead and alienate half of our audience.
And it wasn't hers either. I think that's to bring it back around again. That's the point that I'm trying to make, is that it wasn't J.K. Rowling. Like, just shut up. Like, I understand you can do whatever you want, and she has the platform to say whatever she wants. But as a content creator that's trying to sell T-shirts, which is on a much larger scale who she is too, shut the fuck up. Like, just you're gonna ruin this. And there's people that, like, you're going to ruin that franchise that meant a lot to a lot of people. George Lucas, for all his faults, knew when to keep his, he ruined Star Wars in a different way. But I mean, like, thank God he never, like, got drunk and said some racist shit on Twitter one night or something. You know what I mean? Because then there goes Star Wars. And look at Harry Potter. Yeah, I mean, I can never watch the Lethal Weapon movies the same way. No, Gibson's well.
You muted yourself, James. We can't hear you. It doesn't show you as muted, but we have no audio of you.
I don't see him talking.
I saw his mouth moving.
Oh.
we've muted him because his opinion is unpopular and we don't want anyone else to hear it.
Right. He's a Yankee.
Well, while we're waiting for James to sort out the audio, I wanted just to add real quick a modern example. And I don't want to use a catchphrase, but cancel culture is probably the best way to describe what's happening. And back in 2018, there was a song called Baby, It's Cold Outside. It was written back in the 40s. And it was canceled because people felt it was sexist and offensive. But if you listen to any of the songs that were on the top 40 that year, they are pale. I mean, Baby It's Cold Outside pales in comparison to some of the other songs that were. I can't even give you any of the lyrics because they're that disturbing. It would probably put James's stream into the demonetized song section. But the one I really wanted to bring up is Justin Roiland from Rick and Morty. Who had some legal accusations leveled at him. In the process of that, he lost control of 2 creative projects. He was fired from his job at Rick and Morty. And then as the legal process continued, it turned out that all of the claims were false, that there was absolutely no charges that were brought against him. And he ended up losing his job. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I will just quickly read you his tweet. And this tweet says, "I always known that these claims were false, and I never had any doubt that this day would come. I'm thankful that this case has been dismissed, but at the same time, I'm still deeply shaken at the horrible lies that were reported about me during this process. Most of all, I'm disappointed that so many people were so quick to judge without knowing the facts based solely on the word of one embittered ex trying to bypass due process and get me canceled. And that may have succeeded even partially is very shameful." And he goes on. But the point is that he's the latest in a long series of a cancel culture society. People who decide for one reason or another that this person is unpopular or did something wrong and therefore needed to be removed. And I find it to be a very dangerous and unhealthy mindset, because when mob mentality takes over, when everyone agrees and doesn't act on logic or facts or anything like that, and just decides for whatever reason, I don't like you, you don't belong here anymore. Yeah, that's a dangerous road to start going down.
Especially because North America is very like our laws in both Canada and the States are very like innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
And it seems like our society is like the opposite.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And even if you're proven innocent, it's like, well, too bad. We thought you were guilty. So you know.
I get that to a certain extent, because we do live in a society that has been historically very patriarchal, and for a long time, women were not believed and minorities were not believed, and we are now, the pendulum has swung in the other direction. I think that ultimately that is a good thing, right? Is that we're moving away from this. What a white man says automatically trumps everything else and is law and is just a universally accepted truth. I think that ultimately it's a good thing that we're moving away from that, but the problem is that we are kind of counterbalancing too far now, and we're too far over this way. And ultimately, you hope that it comes to rest in the middle, and that we'll be a society where everybody's voice is heard, and where due process does become the law of the land once again, and we do find balance. We're not there though, but remember, we're overcorrecting from when it was too far over here, and that was really fucked up too.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're all the way over here, and this is really fucked up too. But hopefully, things can come to a rest at some point, and we can act like rational creatures again. But we're not there yet.
We come back around to social media again, because a lot of what we're seeing with the cancel culture really became prominent when social media became a much bigger thing than it had been. And the problem is there's no consequences for lying about someone. Not really. You can say the most horrible things and get somebody canceled, and that doesn't break a law. Sure, they could sue you if they have a lawyer and money to spare, but who has the money to go out and sue everybody that is talking bad about them except J.K. Rowling
or Johnny Depp.
or Johnny Depp, perhaps.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
without consequences, people will do whatever they think they can get away with and not worry about it. They're just doing what they're going to do. That's just the way it is.
Okay.
It's not going to
absolutely
get
right.
better.
Am I back on?
Yes.
You're back.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So no, I mean, and I'm just going to say that I feel there's two different things. There is our freedom of speech, and there's polite society. I think to hush somebody, taking away someone's freedom of speech, because if you go back to say the late 60s, early 70s, like my parents, the hippie social justice movements and things like that, that was more about, you should be able to have that free speech. You should be able to talk against the government. You should be able to basically speak your mind. And a lot of that also just had to do with like, hey, there's horrible things happening with our communities. There's things still like segregation, and there's one of the reasons also feminism kind of really came in strong is for those sort of things. But it's almost like we've just now reversed everything. I look at the news and what people are doing, and people are actually self-segregating. All the basically civil rights stuff that my parents fought for just seems to be dissipating at an incredible rate. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. My point is that I feel that there's not enough polite society anymore. We have our own opinions. We're free to believe however we want and feel however we want about things. But when we deal with society, we actually have to talk within a certain level-headed, and we need to listen, be able to debate, which is also another skill I feel that is completely gone. No one knows how to talk to each other anymore, and I think Catherine and I were talking about this before we went live, is that we may not agree on a certain topic, whatever that might be. However, I'm going to listen, and I might come away better understanding a certain thing, or I may come back with a changed mind, or maybe I won't. But the thing is that I can listen, I can understand where someone is coming from, accept it, and move on. Know that they have these particular virtues, and I'll be careful of, maybe what I'll say. Maybe I tend to use the word dude and guys a lot, referring to both, all genders. And the thing is that some people don't like that. But if that's something I know someone doesn't like, I'm not going to say it maliciously to piss that person off. So I think, at least in my feeling, is that we all have the right to feel however we want, hold whatever views we want. That's just part of being an American. However, there is this thing called polite society, and no matter how we feel about things, we still need to be able to communicate, talk, and be part of society. And I don't know if that made any sense, but
Sure. One of the things that we've lost as part of that polite society is the ability to hear something that's not what we think and just move along. People they just keep scrolling. You heard, somebody said something on the internet, keep scrolling. Just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
yeah, we don't need to pipe in on everyone's threads, and then it just becomes it just all becomes a mob war, no matter what it is. And I won't even get started on TikTok, which doesn't have any responses, but TikTok's algorithm is, I don't know, is poison and toxic, in my opinion. But that's,
You should tell us what the latest TikTok challenge that you've tried is.
Not watching TikTok. Honestly, I haven't been on TikTok in probably, I want to say, close to a month. I can't.
I've never been on TikTok.
Yeah, I can't stand
Neither
it.
have I.
It just creeps me the hell out.
It makes me follow too many OnlyFans girls. It's like a gateway drug. So I had to let it go. I deleted my TikTok. But I think you bring up a good point, though.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you bring up a good point. I think we need to remember that we can always just not be on social media and go walk the fucking dogs. You know what I mean? And like go do something else, put down the phone, and then it stops being real. This is only real as long as it's like in front. And that's my cell phone I use as a wallet too. Which is how integrated in my life it is. My cell phone case off my wallet. Put it down and just walk away from it and go connect with the people that you love and don't pay attention to this shit, and it goes away. And then it's just not there because these aren't real. These are just names on a screen, you know.
Yeah.
This is real. What we do here, this is real.
Yeah.
As an aside, I know an author that has an OnlyFans account because he got it in the very beginning before it became what it is.
Nice.
You.
Are you speaking of yourself in the third person?
I'm not.
Oh.
I'm not. I know another author, an actual other person that got an OnlyFans account when they first started doing this because he had no idea that's what it was going to turn into. And so he told that story and I thought, oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, because I would crack up and when we did our introductions and Terry would just go, Terry Mixon, author, follow me on OnlyFans.
Yeah. Come and see things you thought you'd never see on OnlyFans.
Oh, hey, it's Raven Wolfgar. Oh, thank you for coming on. That is awesome. I am completely honored to see you. Raven is also one of the people that I know from Twitter. Just a really, as the English would say, a really good bloke, I guess, if bloke is actually a nice word. But yeah, just someone I follow all the time and is an amazing person. So thank you for coming on. All right, so I think we're going to go to Catherine. So Ryu Tama. I actually have to keep saying it in the back of my head so I don't screw it up.
Yeah, so right. Of course, my voice decides to die right now. So Ryu Tama is a tabletop role-playing game that is designed. It was designed in 2007 in Japan, and in 2015 it was translated over. And it's designed to be like your first kind of tabletop role-playing game. It's very easy to get into. It doesn't have like too much crunch to it, but there is like solid mechanics within it. And instead of playing as a like adventurer going on an epic quest, you are playing like basically a common townsfolk going on like a journey. And each session is kind of like its own journey, going from like point A to point B, and point A to point B might be like anything from your one town to another town, or it might be going to investigate like some ruins, or it might be going to the big city, that kind of thing. And it does have classes. You can be like a merchant, a farmer, that kind of like lower tier kind of common folk profession. And interestingly enough, the game master gets their own character as well, but their character is very different from the player characters. They basically play a dragon or a spirit that is watching over the party and is interested in getting a good story out of them. And so you get like special powers to influence like the journey, or like combat encounters to make them more interesting, or you can revive fallen party members. And it makes the interaction between the game master and the players a lot more like involved and direct, because you're playing a character who has their own motives, which is something that like not many games do.
So I will give my first comment is that I actually like the fact that it's 0 to hero, because so many games nowadays, Pathfinder, D&D, are all like creating superhero characters and going out there and just becoming more powerful. There's like old D&D and a lot of older games is that you kind of start out as this like lowly peasant who maybe just could afford a sword and going out into the world and making a name for themselves. Not
But the
particularly.
funny thing is that you're not quite going from zero to hero. You're going from a nobody to more of like a somebody. Like you might be by level, like the level cap is level 10. By level 10, you're not like a super powerful sorcerer or anything like that. You're still a merchant. You're just someone who is able to get like the best deals more easily, kind of thing.
All right. So the name I'm assuming is Japanese.
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me that the Tama was kind of like Tamagotchi, but that has nothing to do
Yeah.
with this, right?
No.
Okay. So it's not like you're creating an adventurer, and if you
No, it's
don't
just to
feed
help you
him,
like remember the name of it because like
okay.
Ryu Tama.
All right. But no, that's now. Is this also being Japanese and not making assumptions? But is this also like a form of manga or no?
No, there isn't any manga or anime or anything associated with this. I'm sure stuff has been inspired by it. I'm not sure if it was inspired by or if it inspired, but there is an anime called Spice and Wolf that is very similar to this kind of idea about a traveling merchant traveling alongside a goddess who is the goddess of, I think, like wheat or something like that, or like harvest. And it's kind of about like their journey and stuff like that. And it's very down to earth, despite the supernatural elements.
But it's honest. I mean, in my opinion, I'll let everyone else speak. Is that but those are sort of stories I like, though, and that's one of the reasons I like playing games like RuneQuest, or because you're basically playing this person who is, like RuneQuest, especially. You're playing this person who is a member of a tribe, who is venturing out into this bigger world that they don't know from. Everything they learned in their tribe is now kind of like out to the wind. And as they slowly move on, yeah, they're not particularly becoming Hercules in the next 10 levels. They're basically becoming that person they recognize at the bazaar in the other town who they know about. And I really like that when it comes to role playing. I think one of the things that really turns me off to a lot of newer role play concepts, like I said, especially D&D and Pathfinder, is that you're already starting out as that well-known hero with this huge backstory, and as you go up in level, you basically become a god. And
by level 20, it's like I can jump however high, I can slay gods.
Yeah, you're basically a Super Saiyan. You can like slam your fist against the ground and destroy a planet. I mean, that's kind of where you're at. Terry, Pat, Mike, any thoughts?
It sounds interesting. It's radically different than most of the things that I've played over the years. So I don't know that I have an opinion other than that it sounds interesting.
Fair.
Okay.
I like my superheroes. I get it. I once heard someone describe, it was an old school gamer, and he described 5th edition to me as tabletop video games. And I was like, I love that. Okay, cool. But I get being a guy that plays DCC a lot. I get that that's not always the point, and that there's different experiences to be had. And this sounds more like in the DCC realm of things, where we're not going to overpower the characters. We're going to keep it pretty simple, and I think it's cool.
Raven makes a good point, because with like higher stake or higher powers, you always have to get like above that and then above that and then above that and above that. But when you're always a merchant, it's like, well, my wheel popped off my wagon, and so that's now my issue for the day, and that could be the issue for the day at level 1 or level 10.
And I mean, think about it too, as far as power levels. Like, so and again, I hate to keep bringing back like old style gaming. It makes me feel old.
In the old days.
Back in the old days when we didn't have dice, and we had to put stuff on stone tablets and carry them around. We had to roll dinosaurs. All right. No, but at a certain point, you were still like, you couldn't, if you walked up to the king and his guards and mouthed off, you'd be dead. Like that's it, right? In more modern day games, I would say by 5th level, most modern D&D characters could probably just waltz into like the palace and take out the king's guards and like, I mean, which is fine if that's what you want to do, I guess. But I don't know, the balance of power just seems completely off.
Have you heard of Epic 6 campaigns?
Yeah, okay, so Mike, if this is the same thing, I think so back when we were playing Pathfinder First Edition, basically after like 6th or 7th level, and again, you could tell me this is not what you're talking about, that you were just so powerful that it was broken. And someone had created a system, I think it was over on rpg.net, where they were talking about your characters max out at 6th level, and then basically you only get little bits and pieces of things as you progress, but you're kind of at this point at 6th level where you can still be challenged by things, because after like 10th level, and
especially in like 1st edition and 3.5 for D&D, like by 10th level you're a monster.
Yeah, maybe someday when we have a chance, I'll have Mike tell his story about his ancient red dragon that was basically like killed within X amount of rounds by player characters. I think it was like 3.5, but it happens. No, and Raven, I agree. Like honestly, coming up with a character who is just Joe Schmo, just someone that is really just a nobody is kind of fun. It's also goes back to AD&D, where it's like roll your dice down the line, 3 dice, and whatever lands, you take it. And a lot of people just don't like oh, I have an 8 intelligence, I can't do that, that's horrible. But that's part of the fun, is like having that character who might be handicapped with a certain like low intelligence, low wisdom, horrible charisma. You play the dwarf who has the 4 charisma, and that is the challenge, right? So but anyway, but yeah, I mean, are there any games, and I know you talked about a certain game actually I think within the first or second session. What was the name of the game if people want to check out the whole? Oh, it was an article, I believe, right? For the Ryutama, the thing that had the characters and everything, or did I dream that?
I've forgotten a lot of stuff over the past 2 weeks due to my sickness.
Right. Well, I will definitely find that link and I'll put it in the show notes if people are interested in.
You're gonna show me this and I'll be like, oh my god, how did I forget that?
But just last here before we go over to our final content for the night.
I did want to ask if Mike had an opinion, because I did cut him off with Raven's message.
Well, I also don't know very much about the game. I personally enjoy like slow progression of characters, so I find that fascinating. I think some gamers would find that frustrating because there are many that they want to play the hero that they've read in books and movies, and so obviously this sounds like it doesn't follow that path, or at least not closely. So it definitely you definitely have to know your audience. You definitely have to know who's going to enjoy the game. But personally, I mean, that would be something that would appeal to me. I'd be curious in playing it, because it seems like it would focus more on the role playing aspect instead of the hero slaying the dragon or what have you.
It does actually have a very interesting combat system.
To bring it back to your analogy, what would the merchant need to do, or who would he need to talk to get his wheel repaired on his wagon, instead of the hero going and I don't know, killing a bunch of goblins and stealing their wagon or something.
Or just picking up the wagon and running.
Yes, exactly, and flying away a la Superman. But no, personally, I think it would be an interesting game. But yeah, it definitely would have a very niche audience for sure.
Mike, you were talking about slow progression, and that reminded me of what I've been reading for the last 4 or 5 years. I like reading a lot of lit RPG, and that includes progression and Isekai. I probably mispronounced it. Isekai progression, where the cultivators gain skills and abilities. I wonder if there's a decent RPG that uses, cultivation type structure to build themselves up.
You mean isekai?
That's it, isekai. I only read the words, so I horribly mispronounced them.
All right, so we're going to move on to our final segment because we're already into an hour and 15 on this. Pat, should I just run the bumper and then the trailer?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so here we go. And whether you hate or like this movie, we're going to talk about it. So here we go.
Here's the thing. We're a team of thieves. And when you do this, you're bound to make enemies. Sometimes those enemies come looking for revenge. Truth be told, we helped the wrong person steal the wrong thing. We didn't mean to unleash the greatest evil the world has ever known. But we're gonna fix it.
So how do we pull that off? Figure it out over a drink?
Probably best. You need to give us a fighting chance. We're gonna need strength. You got this, right?
I know you don't.
We also need courage, magic, and you. What is that again? It's an owlbear.
Let's go!
Be warned. There is evil here.
I'm glad he's on our side.
This one's dangerous. But whatever happens, we'll be ready.
What is it exactly that you bring to this?
I'm a planner. I make plans.
You've already made the plan, so
If the existing plan fails, I make a new plan.
you make plans that fail.
No,
He also plays the lute.
not relevant.
All right, and we are back with that little preview. So anyway, Pat, take it away.
Sure. So, as the trailer suggests, this week's we are looking at 2023's Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves, which hits streaming this week. A charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic. But things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. Written and directed by John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, Dungeons & Dragons was released theatrically on March 31st, 2023, although it had its official premiere earlier that month at Austin, Texas's South by Southwest. There was also plenty of sneak preview screenings to get the word of mouth going prior to the film's official release. I'm a shareholder with AMC, and we had the opportunity to go see it about 2 weeks before the release date. And a week before at GaryCon, they actually had shuttles going, ferrying people from the convention to movie theaters in town where they were hosting free screenings. So much to everyone's chagrin, D&D is having a moment right now, and this film showcased the IP's crossover appeal. Goodwill towards nerd culture in general is at an all-time high, even if audiences are starting to show comic book movie fatigue. All Hasbro and Paramount Pictures had to do was deliver something semi-decent, and they had a surefire home run on their hands. Well, they did, and they did. The film follows a party of adventurers with Chris Pine as the bardic leader as they attempt to get a thing that will help them stop the bad man, and actually even badder woman. I don't want to summarize the whole plot because that was a lot of time to look up and write all that. So if you haven't seen it, just go in blind. It won't kill you. But the structure of the film, filled with traps, side quests, and NPCs that briefly join the party, does honestly feel like something out of a D&D source book. I'm not saying that the movie is just like playing the game, but they do find ways to incorporate enough of the tropes and mythos so that it does feel oddly familiar. More than I was expecting, at least. At one point, there's a gag about a trap that's on a bridge that is one of the most on-the-nose criticisms of the insanely abstract puzzles that you come across in D&D games that, I'll be honest, that actually had me almost in tears in the theater. I was laughing so hard. It's not a bad movie. It's not groundbreaking either, and I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of genuine emotional weight to any of the characters. It's Guardians of the Galaxy using 5th edition skins and the Forgotten Realms, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Honestly, I recommend the film. Like I said, just hit streaming services this week, so you can buy or rent it. It's a little bit over 2 hours, so plan accordingly. 2 things I wanted to point out real quick before I open up discussion to the rest of the group. As I stated earlier, Chris Pine is the main character, the party leader, and a bard. And I bring this up because I always play a bard when I play D&D, and people bust my balls for it a lot, so fuck you. And number 2, given the character classes that we see on display, there's a bard, there's a barbarian, there's a wizard, there's a druid, there's a paladin. You'd think you'd see a decent amount of magic or character class abilities, and you really don't. When they fight, it's all kind of basic melee. I mean, the wizard does the wizard stuff, and the druid kind of shape wild shapes or whatever that you see in the trailer. But other than that, that's it. And that kind of annoyed me when I was watching the movie. But I read in an interview later that the creators thought that as the franchise progresses, you can expect to see the characters level up, which is, of course, what you would expect to do with an honest D&D party. And I thought that was a really cool idea. It sounds maybe a little bullshit, like, okay, we're going to have them do more stuff in the future movies. But I guess that was the concept, is that Chris Pine in this is a low-level bard, so he's not casting cure light wounds, or he's not, doing bardic songs of inspiration or something. And that's kind of why you don't see as much innate character class abilities as you think you would. So that's what I got. What do you guys think of it? I hear most people have seen it and like it.
I immediately have a response to the Chris Pine thing, and it was because I saw an article talking about him, and it was explaining how they did the bard really well, and he, like, a lot of people say that, like, oh, he never casts spells, he's never like does anything that a bard does. He has a lute. He's just a rogue with a lute. But if you pay attention to the movie and like really pay attention to what he's doing and how he's like acting, he doesn't cast spells, but he does present spells in a way that is not a spell. Like, he charms people, he inspires his allies in the middle of a fight, and like, he doesn't play his lute too often. It's usually with like his words and his gestures and everything else, but like, he's usually there, being the leader of the party.
That's actually
I'll allow it.
Yeah, that's a very fair assessment. So I just so I'll just go on my thoughts because we've all seen it. So first of all, there was a lot of naysayers on Twitter, but there's a shock, and I actually, they're like, oh, I'm going to boycott this and don't give WotC money and blah blah blah.
Oh, yeah.
But honestly, I absolutely loved it. First, so the Wizard of Thay was hot, so I will just throw that out there right now. She was amazingly hot, and but if you've seen any of the other movies, so previous to this, there were 3 other Dungeons and Dragons movies. There was the one from 2000 with Jeremy Irons. where Jeremy Irons pretty much chewed scenery like it was going out of style. And it was interesting, but it really wasn't D&D. Like it was just, it felt like episode 1 reskinned with a a fantasy setting. The second one, which I can't remember the name of it, was a lot better. It was a lot less. The quality was horrible, but they started mentioning things like, yes, and when I stormed the Tower of Inverness, or they kept throwing out all these things that related to D&D, like the modules and characters and things like that. That one was fairly decent. Then the last one was some weird, I have no idea what they're trying to do, but they were throwing around 4th edition D&D references like there was no tomorrow. And it was a completely horrible movie except for the kind of hot barbarian. But that's like the only reason to watch the movie is for the hot barbarian.
It's the only reason why I watch movies.
Oh, absolutely. But this movie said D&D to me. Honestly, the fact that it was set in the Forgotten Realms, which is a well-established D&D campaign setting, that they used a lot of the tropes. So I would agree with your bard comment that even if you go back to early bards before they became the buff machine, bards are mostly inspirational. Like they were just along to tell you stories and get you revved up to do things, and I think that worked fine. The tiefling was a little disappointing as far as the way they made the tiefling look. I wanted more of the bigger horns or red skin, or
I was disappointed in her in general, but
yeah,
not majorly, but yeah, there were just like a few things I didn't really
the tail
like about her.
The tail looked like some sort of cosplay tail that someone just decided to buy at a convention. Oh, and I will give my last big major thing, and I'll pass it on, is I absolutely hated the way they did the tabaxi. It actually looked like a furry in a fursuit. Like,
I love the tabaxi. It's so goofy.
It just to me looked like someone said, "Hey, Bob, do you still have your high school mascot costume at home?" Why, yes, I do. Put it on, and we'll meet here at the movie set. It's just because they were all right. So like the Dragonborn wasn't any better, but
the Dragonborn was so good though.
But it was CGI, and at least you kind of got the gist of it. Like the tabaxi really didn't have any features that looked. I just wish they would have CGI'd it more, and I know that's weird saying that. But,
which one was that?
The cat person.
Yeah,
I like that part. I like that part because that
was goofy.
It was real goofy. It was like when they brought in the Eagle Man in the opening scene to bring it back all around again for everybody. Yeah, I think that I hope they really stick with that aesthetic, because that's D&D is that it is fucking goofy, and there's cat people and eagle people, and you know what I mean. Like, let's not shy away from that. Not everything has to be like gritty and realistic. Like,
well, don't get me wrong, I love tabaxi. Like, honestly, in one of Mike's campaigns, I played for close to 2 years a tabaxi ranger, and but I just kind of pictured tabaxi more sleek and streamlined. Like if you had Chester Cheetah as a player character, not like Fursuit Freddy who goes to the local convention. But anyway, all right, I'll shut up now. Let's move on. Who wants to take the next?
I'll take the next one.
Oh,
I enjoyed the movie. It was fun to watch. Sometimes some of the D&D callbacks were a little bit too on the nose for me, and I was like, yeah, that's intruding on the story that they're trying to tell. So they may, in a few places, they may have just been a little strong for my taste, but it didn't really ruin the movie for me. And I appreciated them having the animated D&D characters show up.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I want to say that I think it was well written. I think they created a movie that the longtime D&D fans and players could identify with, could quickly recognize the callbacks. I think they didn't dwell on anything like the romance or any of those things were very lightly touched upon, and then they moved on. So there was nothing that they, beat into the ground. And I think one of the more important things is that even if you didn't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons at all and went in to see this movie, you would still get laughs. You'd still understand the story. You'd still get the most of the jokes, if not all of them. I think they really were able to strike a good balance between something that the fans would enjoy and something that a newcomer would be able to sit down and enjoy as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even D&D Beyond took the characters from the movie, made character sheets out of them, and made them available. So, I mean, if what will disappoint me the most, because Wizards has disappointed me left and right for the past couple of years, but what I want to say is that this is a perfect marketing opportunity. They really just need to kind of get off their corporate high horse, return to their initial values about what D&D is, and really push it, because this is the time. People are going to see that movie and immediately go, I want to play this game. And their starter box set is really depressing. It's unplayable for the most part. Like Path, I don't know if anyone's ever saw the difference between like the Pathfinder basic set and the D&D basic set. It's night and day.
I haven't seen the D&D one.
They released a second one that it's I forget what it's called, but there was the starter box, and then it's like the essentials box.
Essentials, yep.
And that one has a lot more stuff in it, and it has a lot more player aids, where it's got like cards that describe the combat process. You get cards for magic items. You get cards for statuses. You get initiative cards. I actually bought that thing, and when I play with people, they usually know what they're doing, but I'll use those initiative cards because those are helpful. So it comes with a lot more bells and whistles than just that original. Oh, yeah, there you go. That's actually worth the money.
Yeah, it's like $20 too, and you can. It actually comes with enough stuff for you to make characters. Not even just like the starter set comes with a bunch of pre-gens that are pointless. Like, so for example, the newest starter set was called Stormwrack Island or something like that, or Stormwreck Island, and the art on the front looks like the old cartoon series. So you're kind of thinking, oh, this is nostalgia. This is awesome. I want to play a game that the characters are the original, Presto and whatever that Billy or whatever that barbarian's name was. But the thing is that when you go in there, those are not the pre-gens. They're just like some standard stock pre-gens that you would get if you just went online and pulled them down. Even the artwork in the adventure itself has 3 pictures or 3 illustrations of the old D&D character cartoon. So to me, like, I got really excited. I'm actually, hold on, I think I have it. Yep. I immediately went out and bought these. So Wizards of the Coast did these, which are...
No way.
Yeah. So, and now it doesn't have everybody. It has was it Eric the Paladin? It has Presto, it has the Rogue, and the Ranger. So it didn't come with like the Thief or the Barbarian. But when I saw this, I went crazy. I was like, oh my God, I have to have those. It was expensive. They're expensive too. But the point being is that if you're going to go the nostalgia route, go the nostalgia route. Like, don't like tease people and make you think that, oh, if I buy this box set, I'm going to be able to play the old school characters. And, a bunch of old farts like us would just be like, I got to do this for nostalgia's sake. And then you buy it and you're like, hey, wait a minute. This is horrible. Yeah. I could have downloaded most of this shit,
That's a dirty trick.
But anyway, no, but D&D movie, definitely go see it. It is streaming now, so like if you have an account on Vudu or I think any of the major streaming sites, you can. It's a little pricey to. Well, actually, it's like $19 to rent, and like $26 to buy. But
I get it. I think $30 to buy and $26 to rent.
Yeah, it's expensive, but give it another month and it'll be in the like I know it'll be in the Voodoo's like sale of the week or something like that, and you'll be able to pick it up for $9. That's what I
on one of the premier things before long anyway too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So worth watching, and definitely check it out. Check out the older ones too if you really kind of want to uh, go what the fuck. That I think that's what they're really good for. But
I saw the new D&D movie with my dad, who knows like nothing about D&D. Like I tried running him through 5th edition and Pathfinder before, and he like just does not have the mindset for it. And so I dragged him to the movie, and I had to like tell him, this isn't animated; it's live action. And yeah, he loved it, and like he had no idea about like any kind of lore or what the races were or anything, and like he got like all the jokes, and it was great.
yeah, and that's I think another thing they did is they made it to anyone. The entry level was open to anybody who wanted to go see the movie. So either whether you were a super fan or someone who went, what's this D&D thing? Um, you would have found something out of the movie to enjoy. So I think that was the important thing about that. And if you really want some animated D&D stuff, Record of Lodoss War. I'll definitely not talk about that. Maybe that'll be for a future discussion. But if you want something that was based on a D&D campaign back in the 80s by a Japanese animator, Record of Lodoss War is pretty amazing. So it's out there. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and close for the evening and say good night. So anyway, thank you for joining us. I hope my little hot topic rant earlier didn't scare anybody off. It was actually good to see Greg and Raven and Rachel and everyone in our chat. So thank you for coming, and we will be back next week with the another Gygax 75, pretty much wrapping it up, I think, or at least getting close to wrapping it up. And I will haunt Pat for the movie of the week for next week. So we'll
There
do
should
that.
be much less dead.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. So anyway, JC, check us out, Grindhouse Media. We also now you can find this podcast on most of your major things. You can go through even Spotify and hear us that way. And there was something. Oh, I know. While everyone's saying goodbye, I'm going to find our Teespring and I'll put it in the chat window here. So,
Are we on Apple yet?
yes, we are. Actually, it took me a bazillion years to get on Apple, but because their process is weird and broken.
Sounds like Apple.
Yeah.
All right, so let's Catherine, go ahead and anything you
All
want
right.
to say or yep.
I'm Catherine. I'm sick as a dog right now, but you can check out Simply PF2E, Epi's Tome. That's all me. Simply PF2E is not me. That's Quinn. She's lovely. And yeah.
All right, Terry.
I'm Terry Mixon. I write science fiction, and you can find me on Amazon, or you can go to the Dead Robot Society writing podcast and hear and see me yabber on about that.
Pat.
Hi, my name is Pat. You can find me on Twitter at DrX2112.
And GM Mike.
Hi, I'm GM Mike, and I play role-playing games.
All right, awesome. So yeah, on the screen there, you'll see our Teespring, and you can find everything from our Show Us Your Crits merchandise to the more adult alternative play or the Emporium, or at least the older Emporium logo that we had. So fun for people of all ages, I guess. And we wish you a good night. So see you next week.
Good night.